What if the biggest misconception in personal growth is the belief that awareness changes your life? Just think about it. Most of us already know our patterns, our habits. We know we overthink. We know we people please. We know that we have a tendency to avoid difficult conversations. We know stress is affecting our health. We know, and we keep choosing relationships that don't serve us. We know we sabotage our own success. So if awareness is enough, why do we keep living the same life? For the past 6 months here on the Aligned Human Project, we've been asking 2 questions. The first is, who am I? And the second is, what is actually running my life? We've explored the witness, the ego, the pain body, survival mindset, emotional familiarity, trauma, recreation, and the 5 elements of survival adaptations. But today, everything changes. Because awareness was never meant to be the destination. It was always meant to become the doorway. Today, we begin the next phase of our journey because awareness allows us to observe, but alignment allows us to participate. And your life doesn't change when you become aware. We need another step. Your life changes when awareness changes your next choice. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why knowing is not the same thing as changing, why your nervous system keeps pulling you back toward a familiar pattern, and how one small, conscious step can completely change the direction of your life. Hello, and welcome to the Aligned Human Project. I'm your host, Dawn Elgin. If you've ever looked around at your life that appears successful on the outside, but feels disconnected on the inside, you are in the right place. If you've ever wondered why you keep repeating the same patterns, carrying the same emotional weight, or chasing goals that never quite bring you the peace you hope they would, you are in the right place. This podcast is about remembering who you were before the world told you who you needed to be. Together, we'll explore the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, ancient wisdom, quantum science, and practical spiritualism to understand how awareness shapes our field and how our field shapes our lives, and why lasting change begins from the inside out. We'll talk about leadership, relationships, health, purpose, emotional well-being, and conscious creation, not as separate parts of life, but as reflections of one thing, our level of alignment. Because most people don't need another strategy. They need a new relationship with themselves. So whether you're leading a business, a family, a team, or simply trying to lead yourself with greater intention, welcome. Take a breath, become the witness, and let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to the Aligned Human Project. If you're new here, my name is Dawn Elgin, and I'm the creator of Field and Form, the 12 Laws of Co-Creation. And my work is dedicated to helping people move from survival mindset to alignment mindset so that they can consciously create lives that no longer cost them their nervous system. If you've been with me for a while, you know that we've been on quite a journey together. We started by asking one of the oldest questions humanity has ever asked. Who am I? Not what do I do? Not what have I accomplished? Not what happened to me? But who am I? Beneath all of this, together, we discovered something both ancient and profoundly liberating. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You experience them. You are not your conditioning or your experiences. You are the witness, the part of you that can observe every thought without becoming it, the part of you that can notice every emotion without being consumed by it, the part of you that has been quietly present through every single season of your life. And then we asked a second question. If I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my conditioning, then what is running my life? That question led us to what I believe is one of the greatest misunderstandings of personal development. Most people don't have a fixed mindset. What they have is a survival mindset, a mind that learned often brilliantly how to keep them safe, not necessarily happy, not necessarily fulfilled, but safe. And that survival intelligence expresses itself differently in each of us. And sometimes it shows up as perfectionism, sometimes as people pleasing, sometimes as control, sometimes as way over functioning, sometimes as withdrawal. Different behaviors, but the same intention, protection. But here's what I've realized over the years of doing this work, both in my own personal life and with hundreds of clients. Seeing the pattern isn't what changes the pattern. That's where so many people get stuck. They become incredibly aware. They can explain their childhood. They can explain their attachment style. They know their triggers. They've read the books. They've listened to the podcasts. They have done the therapy. And yet, life keeps arriving at the exact same destination over and over and over again. Why? Because awareness by itself doesn't create transformation. Awareness simply creates the possibility of transformation. Transformation begins when awareness changes your next choice. And that's what this chapter of the Aligned Human Project is all about. Not becoming more aware, learning how to choose differently, because survival is automatic and alignment is intentional. I want to introduce you to a distinction that has completely transformed how I understand change. It's the difference between observing your life and participating in it. See, awareness allows us to observe, but alignment allows us to participate. Let that settle in for a moment. For years, I believed that if I could just understand myself deeply enough, everything else would naturally fall into place. If I could identify the wound, understand my trauma, name the limiting belief, figure out why I reacted the way that I did, then surely the pattern would disappear. Have you ever believed that? I certainly did. And don't get me wrong, awareness matters. It is the first step. Nothing changes without it. It's the beginning of everything. Without awareness, there is no choice. But awareness is not the destination. Awareness is the doorway. Here's the distinction. The witness does not need healing. The witness is already whole, already perfect. The witness is the aware presence within you. It has never been broken. It has never been diminished by what happened to you. It has simply been watching. So if the witness isn't what needs to change, what does? This is where I want to introduce a piece of language that I believe changes everything. It's called the field of mind. The field of mind is not who you are. It is where we experience being human. It's where our thoughts arise. It's where our beliefs are held, where memory lives, where meaning is created. where our conditioning expresses itself, where our survival strategies become automatic. The field of mind is constantly changing. The witness is not. When we confuse the two, we spend our lives trying to fix ourselves. When we distinguish them, something remarkable happens. We stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" And we begin asking a far more powerful question. What pattern is moving through the field of mind right now? Can you feel the difference? One question assumes you are broken. The other recognizes you are aware. One creates shame, "I've lived there," and the other creates curiosity. One keeps you identified with the survival mind, while the other gently returns you back to the witness. And from the witness, choice becomes possible. Because you can't consciously choose from a pattern you can't see. But once you can see it, the next choice becomes yours. That's alignment. That's sovereignty. Alignment is the repeated practice of choosing from the witness rather than choosing from the survival mind. Not once, not when it's easy, not only when life is going well, but moment by moment, conversation by conversation, boundary by boundary, breath by breath. It is not glamorous, I promise. It's a practice. And every aligned life is built exactly the same way, one conscious choice at a time. Now, let's bridge this with what we know from neuroscience, because understanding how the brain works helps us stop making our patterns mean something is wrong with us. Your brain is designed for primarily one purpose: prediction. Every second of every day, it's asking a simple question: what do I expect is going to happen next? It does this because prediction is efficient. It conserves energy and increases the likelihood of your survival. Not a bad thing. The brain builds these predictions from repeated experience. Every time a thought, emotion, behavior, or response is repeated, the neural pathway supporting it becomes stronger. This is often summarized by the phrase, "neurons that fire together, wire together." Over time, these repeated experiences become your brain's default expectations. Not because they're healthy, not because they are true, but because they're familiar. This is known as predictive processing. Rather than simply reacting to the world, your brain is constantly generating predictions about what it believes is most likely to happen and preparing your body accordingly. So, if criticism is common in your childhood, your nervous system may predict criticism before it arrives. If love felt conditional, your brain may predict rejection long before anyone rejects you. If your value came from achievement, your body may prepare to overwork before anyone asks anything of you. The survival mind isn't asking what would create the most meaningful life. It's asking what has helped us survive before. That's why insight alone rarely changes behavior, because the brain's assuming the next moment. You can understand a pattern intellectually while your nervous system continues to predict and therefore recreate the same experience. And this is why awareness is necessary, but not sufficient, because transformation does not occur when the pattern is understood. Transformation begins when a new choice is repeated often enough that the brain updates its prediction. In other words, awareness lets you see the switch. Choice moves the train from one track to another. And that's where I would love to go next. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever left a conversation thinking, "I knew better"? Have you ever reacted to someone that you love only to apologize later because you knew that wasn't who you wanted to be? Or promised yourself, this time I'm going to set the boundary. This time I'm going to stop people pleasing. This time I'm going to stop overworking. And then you didn't. If you've ever experienced that, I want you to hear this. You are not weak. You are not broken. And you are not lacking awareness. You're standing in the space between awareness and alignment. And it's called life. That's where every human being lives. Because awareness doesn't make the choice. The witness makes the choice. And that choice is only available in this present moment. Think about that. Your conditioning lives in the past. Your anxiety lives in imagined futures. Your survival mind is constantly scanning for what might happen next. But the witness only exists here. It's an entity only of present time. That's why presence is power. Not because presence magically fixes everything, because presence is the only place from which conscious choice can be made. Every aligned life begins with one present moment decision. Not a perfect decision, a conscious one. So let me give you an image that has completely transformed the way I think about change. So imagine your life is a train, and every single day that train is moving. It's taking you somewhere. Now, here's the interesting part. Most of us become obsessed with the destination. I want a better relationship. I want less stress. I want to feel healthier. I want a different career. I want more peace. So we work harder. We read another book, listen to another podcast, take another course, set another goal. But despite all of that, we keep arriving at the same station. Have you ever wondered why? It's because the train is still on the same track. The destination isn't determined by how badly the passengers want something different. It's determined by the track beneath the train. Survival has a track, and alignment has a track. Now, here's the beautiful part. The switch that moves a train from one track to another is tiny. It's this small mechanical lever, almost insignificant compared to the size of the train. Yet, that tiny switch completely changes where the train eventually arrives. That's conscious choice. Your life doesn't transform because one day you become a different person. It transforms because in one ordinary moment, you chose a different track. Then you chose it again and again. Eventually, what once required enormous intention becomes your new direction. Isn't that exactly how we learned survival? One repeated experience at a time? Alignment works the exact same way. One repeated conscious choice at a time. Okay, so I've given you the train. Now think about this. I desire to have a relationship. I want to have healthy relationships. I want to have friendships. I want to have the love of my life come in. That would be my intention. And I can have that intention, but it's not actually what sets the track that I'm on. So the destination, it reflects the direction, not the desire. And we talk about this in incongruency. So to be completely congruent or aligned, my thoughts and my emotions have to match my actions. This is where a lot of the times we struggle because I can be thinking I want love, but feeling unworthy. And so I need to work on the feeling that I've got. I've got to pay attention to my actions because I can be wanting love while somebody's trying to tell me they love me. And I'm like, oh, you can't mean you love me because I'm not really lovable, but let me introduce you to somebody else. My actions aren't matching the desire because I'm still on my survival track. So, awareness gives us the pause, this ability to see, wait a minute, my actions are not aligning with my desire. And the reason is I have an incongruency. My my thoughts and my emotions and my beliefs about myself are not in alignment. And my behavior is going to reflect that dissonance that's inside of me. So, because my survival instinct kicks on far faster in 1/10 of a second, it's way more difficult to act from there unless I become aware of it. So I can keep saying I want love while I keep rejecting anybody that wants to be my friend or my lover. That becomes a problem. So we need the awareness for the first step. Wait, my actions are not aligning with my desires. So the first step is always to become aware. And then the second step is to pause. And I say this because we have to get present. First, there's awareness, and then we begin with just one breath. We take that breath and we pause. And that pause, the presence in that moment allows you to reach the switch and change the track. So when we're present, we get to reach for it, and then the choice is to pull it. So we're making the choice. What track do I want to be on? And we do the work, step by step, moment by moment, repeated over and over and over again, because we didn't get here to this moment in just a moment. It was repeated behaviors that created that subconscious behavior. Now that we're coming from consciousness, we need to repeat it so often so it becomes natural. We're going down the track, we become aware, we pause, there's a switch, we pull, we switch tracks, we're back over. And we do this over, switch, and over, switch, and over, switch, and so that we get to the destination that we desire. We're the one driving the train. Before we're aware, it's like it's on autopilot. And unfortunately, your autopilot is based on the past. So we need to become aware to get into this present moment to overtake and start taking control of the train once again. You see, you don't have to become a different person. You simply have to keep choosing the different track over and over again. Let's look at what's happening inside your brain in those moments. So when something triggers you, say an email, a criticism, a disagreement with your partner, maybe a mistake at work, your nervous system reacts long before you consciously think about it. So the amygdala plays a central role in detecting threat, rapidly evaluating whether something is safe or dangerous based on previous experiences. If it recognizes something familiar, your body begins preparing that survival almost instantly. Your heart rate changes. Your stress hormones release. Your muscles tense. Your breathing becomes shallower, all before you consciously decided how do you want to respond. This is one of the reasons people say, I don't know what came over me. Something did. A beautifully intelligent survival system that has spent years learning how to protect you. The problem isn't that your nervous system responds. The problem is when it becomes the only voice you ever listen to. Here's the extraordinary part. The moment that you pause, really pause, you begin recruiting a different part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is where reflection, empathy, long-term thinking, emotional regulation, conscious decision-making all live. In other words, the pause is not passive. It's neurological. That single breath, that moment of presence creates enough space for the witness to participate. This is why mindfulness has been shown to improve emotional regulation, reduce automatic reactivity, and strengthen the brain's ability to respond rather than react. Every time you interrupt the automatic survival response and consciously choose from your values instead, you strengthen new neural pathways. Eventually, those pathways become easier to access. This is neuroplasticity, not changing who you are, changing how you participate. That's why I don't believe transformation happens in one giant breakthrough. Transformation happens in thousands of ordinary moments that nobody ever sees. This is why I believe one of the greatest misunderstandings in personal growth is the idea that healing is about fixing yourself. The witness doesn't need fixing. The witness is already whole. It is literally pure perfection, pure potential. What changes is your relationship with the field of mind. You begin noticing thoughts without becoming them. You begin feeling emotions without believing every one of them. You begin recognizing survival strategies without judging yourself for them. That's where compassion enters the picture. And I think compassion has also been misunderstood. Most people think compassion is simply being kind. I don't. I think compassion is what creates enough safety for transformation. Think about it. When you shame yourself for falling into an old pattern, does the pattern loosen its grip? Or does it become stronger? When you criticize yourself, does your nervous system relax? Or does it become more defensive? Compassion isn't letting yourself off the hook. Compassion is creating the internal safety required for your nervous system to believe that another choice is possible. People don't heal because they finally understand themselves. People heal when they feel safe enough to choose differently. That's why compassion isn't the opposite of responsibility. It's what makes responsibility possible. Without compassion, responsibility feels like blame. With compassion, responsibility becomes freedom. I want you to think about something that happened this week. Not 5 years ago, not your childhood. Just take a moment and think about something that happened this week. Maybe someone interrupted you. Maybe your partner said something that stung. Maybe your boss sent an email that immediately tightened your chest. Maybe your child didn't listen. Maybe someone disappointed you. Just notice what happened. Did you defend? Did you withdraw? Did you explain? Did you fix? Did you control? That was your survival intelligence doing exactly what it learned to do. Now, imagine going back into that same moment. Nothing changes except for one thing. You notice. You breathe. You remember you're the witness. And you ask one question. What would alignment choose right now? Can you feel how different that is? The situation may not change. The other person may not change. But you just reached the switch. And every time you reach the switch, you create the possibility of a different destination. That's the practice. That's alignment. Now, before we finish today, I want to bring this back to one of the frameworks you've heard me talk about throughout this journey, and that is the 5 elements. I don't teach the 5 elements as personality types. I don't believe we're meant to put ourselves or each other into these little boxes. I see them as 5 beautiful expressions of survival intelligence. 5 ways the nervous system learns to create safety. If you're more wood, your survival mind may try to create safety through control, action, achievement, or pushing harder. If you're a fire, safety may come through connection, approval, being seen, or keeping everybody happy. If you're more earth, you may create safety by taking care of everyone else before yourself, believing your worth is found in being needed. If you're more metal, your nervous system may seek safety through perfection, certainty, or high standards, maybe even getting everything exactly right. And if you're water, safety may come through withdrawing, waiting, avoiding risk, or protecting yourself from disappointment. Hesitation, different strategies, same purpose. Every one of them learned to protect you. And I want you to pause here because I think this matters. Your survival strategy is not your enemy. It's evidence that at some point in your life, your nervous system found a brilliant way to help you survive. The problem isn't that you have a survival strategy. The problem is when you keep using it long after danger has passed. That's why awareness matters. Not so you can judge the strategy, so you can thank it and then choose. Alignment doesn't ask you to reject the part of yourself that learned to survive. Alignment simply asks, is this still the wisest choice for the life I'm trying to create? That question alone has the power to change everything. I want to leave you with one final image because I find that creating these pictures helps us take something that is abstract and bring it into something that feels more tangible. Imagine an artist standing in front of a blank canvas. The artist isn't trying to become the painter. The artist already is the painter. The question is, what will they create today? I see our lives the same way. The witness is the painter. The field of mind prepares the colors. The body holds the brush. And the field organizes the strokes. Reality becomes the canvas. Every thought, every conversation, every decision, every boundary, every act of courage, and every act of compassion adds another brushstroke. The painting doesn't appear all at once. It emerges, stroke by stroke, choice by choice, day by day. That's why I don't believe life is something that happens to us. I believe life is something we participate in. It happens through us, not because we control everything, but because we always have the opportunity to choose the field from which we respond. That is co-creation. The witness remembers who you are. In fact, she never forgot. Awareness illuminates the field of mind, and presence creates the space for conscious choice. Alignment is choosing from witness rather than survival mind. Creation becomes the natural expression of those repeated choices. The masterpiece isn't painted in one extraordinary moment. It's painted one conscious brushstroke at a time. Now, I'd like to leave you with a practice that I hope you'll carry with you this week. Not because it's complicated, but because it's simple enough to actually use. So the next time you notice yourself becoming reactive, pause. Take one slow breath. Just breathe in. Feel your feet on the ground. bring your attention back into your body. And then I want you to quietly ask yourself, what is my survival mind trying to protect right now? And don't rush the answer. I just want you to notice. Notice the urge to defend. Notice the urge to explain, to justify. Notice the urge to control. Notice the urge to withdraw. Notice the urge to rescue. And then ask a second question. What would the witness choose? Not what would fear choose. Not what would habit choose. Not what would my conditioning choose. What would alignment choose? This could be a boundary. Maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's saying no. Maybe it's asking for some help, some support. Maybe it's saying nothing at all. Whatever it is, choose the next right brushstroke, not the whole painting. Don't get caught up in all that drama. Just the next one. Because that is how aligned lives are created. One conscious choice at a time. As we begin this next chapter of the Aligned Human Project, I want you to remember something. Over the past 6 months, we've explored awareness and conditioning. We've discovered the witness. We've begun to understand the architecture of survival. And now we enter into the practice. Because understanding isn't the finish line, it's the invitation. Awareness reveals, alignment chooses, and creation expresses. That's the journey we're going to be walking together over these next few months. Not learning more about ourselves, but learning to live from ourselves. Learning to choose from the deepest, wisest part of who we are again and again until alignment becomes less of an effort and more of a way of being. Because survival is automatic. Alignment is intentional. And creation is the natural consequence of what we repeatedly choose. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment and share one survival pattern you've become aware of, and one aligned choice you're committed to practicing this week. Not changing forever, just your next choice. If you're curious about your own survival strategies, I've created a free 5 elements of alignment assessment to help you discover which patterns have been quietly organizing your life, your relationships, and your leadership. You'll find the link below. And if you're ready to move beyond awareness into practice, I'd love to invite you to join us inside Align Your Life. Every month, we explore the laws of field and form, integrate them through the lens of the 5 elements, and practice what it actually means to become the aligned human. If this video or podcast supported you, subscribe. Share it with someone who's ready for a different conversation about growth. And come back next week, because this is just the beginning of phase 3, the practice of conscious choice. I want to leave you with this. You don't change your life when you become aware. You change your life when awareness changes your next choice. The witness is the painter. The field of mind prepares the colors. The body holds the brush, and the field organizes the strokes. Reality becomes the canvas. So choose your next brushstroke wisely. Not perfectly, but consciously. Because you are the witness. You shape the field, and the field shapes your life. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. My hope is that you leave each episode not with more information, but with greater awareness, because awareness is where every meaningful change begins. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's ready to stop surviving and start living from alignment. If you'd like to continue this work, you can join us inside the Aligned Human Project community. Explore the free 5-element alignment assessment or learn more about Align Your Life, Aligned Living, and Alignment Operating System at practicalspiritualismco.com. Remember, awareness reveals, alignment chooses, and creation follows. You are the witness. You shape the field, and the field shapes your life. Until next time, keep pausing, keep noticing, and keep choosing. I'll see you in the next episode.